And we have offshoots of when postmodernism thought is applied to things like literary theory. It gives rise to what's called deconstructionism. So again, postmodernism, individuals are constituted by their membership within a community. That's where it is. You almost have a loss of the personal. You're
personal identity.
You're just part of the collective. You're part of the group. You're part of and that
makes you who you are because you're part of the group, right?
Yeah, right. And it's really hard to see where those lines are drawn, but and
it affects all that you think and all that you say because you're only repeating what the rest of the group, and thinking what the rest of the group has kind of, you've immersed into, has you've assimilated, right? It's the Borg collective.
Right. Yeah. And so you have literary critics like Roland Barthes who have say that pieces of writing is merely a tissue of quotations absorbed from the surrounding culture. He's best known for his slogan, "The Death of the Author," by which he means the death of the very concept of individual creativity. So the writers are just like these bards or these shamans who of old have taken the stories of their clan or their tribe or their community and spun them a different way or utilized them to apply to a particular person and the kind of everything is the Odyssey, there's man versus nature, man versus man, man versus God, and Homer's Odyssey. Everything is just derived from that, and so any story that attempts to communicate a story function is ultimately just a kind of this going back to a Western civilization type storyteller, and it's not something that they've come up with. They're just reforming it in their own way.
Because the author's dead.
Yeah, texts have no authors. Moreover, we all belong to a variety of communities based on attributes such as race, class, gender, ethnicity, and sexual identity, all with conflicting outlooks and interests. As a result, every author will unconsciously reflect conflicting social messages. For Barthes, a text is a mix in which a variety of writings, none of them original, blend and clash. So you have no new stories, and the ones that are made up, they're conflicting with each other because we all have we're all part of different groups. The goal of
and there's none that are original. That's kind of an interesting, right? Saying none of them are original. So his isn't. There's the fact that I belong to a particular race or class or gender. The gender is not original. I'm not sure where it's always been. I guess it's eternal. Yeah. The eternal ethnicity, the eternal self-identity, because none of it is original.
And the stories are eternal. At some point, you have to realize that and I know we're getting a little further here, but that the community, the collective, the group is just made up of individuals, and individuals act. It's like saying that fashion. I wear these clothes because they're fashionable. Well, who made them fashionable? Well, the community did. You're wearing the style that you are. Our hair is the way they are. You look at the 70s and you're like, oh, zoot suits. Where did zoot suits come from? Well, that's just the community, the collective. Well, no, individuals act, and individuals grew into a community who all wore zoot suits. And so that's where these ideas come from. They come from individuals, but that's not what they're trying to do here. So Barthes' critique is that is saying that the goal of the literary critic, the person who
deconstructs,
who deconstructs the written word, the goal is to dig beneath the surface of the text to excavate and disentangle those clashing meanings. This is called deconstruction of the text, hence the term deconstructionism. Well, okay, what happens when we apply the theory to itself? As soon as deconstructionists get in the business of providing reasons, they are performing in the business of making claims and thus are subject to their own critique. What happens if we subject Barthes' views to his own critique? We have to conclude that he, too, is merely a mouthpiece for social forces such as race, class, and gender. His own writings do not offer original or creative insights, but are mere collages of conflicting quotations absorbed unconsciously from the communities which he belongs. the death of the author must include Barth himself. The death of the author is suicide. He
He just killed himself.
Oh, man.
Wow. Talking about a performative utterance, right?
Yes.
A performative contradiction, right?
Yeah.
All writing means the death of the author. So his writing means his death.
And we've seen this idea of like class conflict and like critical race theory and the social justice movement is this attempt to say, you have the oppressor and the oppressed. And these ideas seem to be only taking place in kind of a critique of the uncivilized world that you have to be more high-minded in order to rise above this, but you never take that critique upon itself.
Yeah. It's amazing.
In practice, the only way deconstructionists can function is to tacitly exempt themselves from critique they apply to everyone else. It's such an elitist idea. This is elitism.
The angelic view, the God's eye view, everybody but me view.
Yes.
Right?
And not just me, but my writings, my words, my very words have a special meaning that
it transcends all of the rest of the reality.
I mean, if this isn't biblical language through and through, I mean, this is revelation. This is
That's
an idea.
right.
This is amazing stuff. Ironically, postmodernists contradict their own view every time they write a book or an article. Deconstructionists hope their own work will be treated as a serious contribution from the creative mind, not merely a replay of cultural messages. Why do we like some movies better than others? Why do we say, oh, I haven't seen that before? Why are we always saying, oh, I wish a movie wouldn't be made from a comic book or a book or something else out there, when someone's like, oh, that just came out of nowhere? Oh, that's interesting. It may not be the greatest movie, but you're like, hey, at least I haven't read that before. At least I haven't seen that before. Okay. Theologian Mark C. Taylor, himself a postmodernist, don't know how he's a postmodernist and a theologian, but he explains the death of the author was an inevitable result of the death of God. The death of God was the disappearance of the author, capital A, who had inscribed absolute truth and
univocal.
Yeah, univocal meaning in world history. And because humans are made in the image of God, Taylor concludes that the death of God implies the disappearance of the author. For if there is no creator, then humans do not have dignity of being sub-creators. They are merely products of social historical forces.
What a situation that we find ourselves in.
And again, part of that's true, but it's not the whole. And they're trying to say, this is the whole. All of this is like this part, where that part can be true, but...
Yeah, we are social creatures, right? We are, to a certain extent, a product of our communities and the various identities in our communities. Yes, we are, but we're more than that. Yeah. We're created in the image of a transcendent creator.
Right. Mm-hmm. And there's no assumption that, like language. So all the words that we're saying have always been said or have always existed in our minds. The evolution of language has never happened, or that evolution goes back to the first words where all language comes from everything. Well, I think that's a biblical idea right there, and we probably don't want to say that. Or just coming up with new words. The word cool or meme or computer or robot. I mean, those are words that we find enter into the lexicon and then become part of the community from individuals. So, it's wrong, but it's because they're taking the part and applying it to the whole.